Living a life on the run is not for the faint of heart, but some criminals have done so for over a decade. These missing people have seemingly made an art out of evading capture, and it remains to be seen if they will ever face the consequences for the crimes they have committed. Number 5. The Geezer Bandit is the name given to a man who's wanted by the FBI for a string of bank robberies committed in Southern California. Investigators believe that he's responsible for at least 16 robberies, the first having been committed in 2009, and the last of which was committed on the 2nd of December 2011, after which he became a missing person. The FBI believes that the bandit is a white male between 60 and 70 years of age. He stands between 5'10" and 6 feet tall and weighs between 190 and 200 pounds with an average build. While inspecting footage of the robberies, they were able to ascertain that he's very likely left-handed. The man's method of robbery is to enter a bank posing as an everyday customer, and he then approaches the teller while holding a leather case. He produces a weapon and hands the teller a note demanding money be handed over to him. One teller who was in close contact with the robber stated that he was handed a note that read, quote, "Give me $50,000, and then the note further stated that if he didn't comply, his life would be ended. Although the man appears to be of an elderly age, some law enforcement officers have theorized that he is in fact a younger man. They believe that he may actually be a master of disguise, and that he uses a silicone mask to give the impression that he's much older. The FBI has made a point of questioning manufacturers of similar types of special effects masks in an attempt to gain a greater insight into the bandit's modus operandi. This tactic was devised after another man was convicted of various bank robberies in which he wore a mask that hid his face. The theory gained further traction after surveillance footage emerged of the bandit running much faster than would be expected of a man in his 60s. But despite the best efforts of the FBI to track the man down, he remains at large 10 years after his last robbery. Number 4. Shailesh Kumar Jain, also known as Sam, is one of the FBI's 10 most wanted black hat hackers. He formed a partnership with 2 other men, Bjorn Daniel Sundin and another unnamed suspect, and the 3 have been indicted of conspiracy to commit computer fraud, 1 count of computer fraud, and 24 counts of wire fraud. Federal warrants for their arrests have also been issued. The unnamed suspect has been apprehended, but Sam and Sundin remain at large at this stage, thwarting the FBI at every turn. Between December of 2006 and October of 2008, Sundin and Jain devised a scam where spyware was used to trick customers into purchasing rogue anti-spyware software to the tune of $100 million. The 2 men set up a number of websites, including discountbob.com and winantivirus.com, where they offered antivirus software for sale, operating under a fake company name called Innovative Marketing Inc. They then used email scamming and pop-up security alert ads, which would direct potential customers to the sites where they were asked to purchase the bogus software. Once on the site, customers had the option to purchase antivirus software packages that were priced between $30 and $70. The purchases that were made by credit card were then ferried through various financial institutions, and they would ultimately be deposited by Jain into bank accounts that he owned in Switzerland and the United States. People from more than 60 countries were lured into their trap, only realizing that they'd been scammed when they received the purchased goods. When they complained about the software, customers were directed to call centers where they were lied to or given refunds to deter them from reporting the scammers. Jain has been a fugitive since 2008, when he failed to appear in court and pay a $250,000 bond as scheduled. He was indicted again in 2010, and since then, authorities have confiscated more than $15 million from his Swiss bank account. It's believed that he may be hiding out in Sweden, which does not have an extradition treaty with the United States for computer-based offenses, and as such, he remains a missing person. Number 3. Arnaldo Jimenez was added to the FBI's most wanted list on the 8th of May, 2019, though he's been wanted for nearly 10 years. Jimenez married Estrella Carrera, who had 2 children from a prior relationship, and the couple had 1 child of their own together. On the night of the wedding, they had dinner with family and friends, after which they went to a nightclub where they celebrated until around 4 a.m. the following morning. Theories suggest that the couple got into an argument as they were making their way home in Jimenez's black 2006 4-door Maserati. It's believed that he lost his temper during the fight and attacked her with a sharp knife, ending her life. He then moved her into her apartment and left her in a bathtub while she was still dressed in the same cocktail dress that she wore to their wedding ceremony. When she did not arrive at her family's home the next day to pick up her children as scheduled, they reported her as a missing person. She was discovered inside her apartment on the afternoon of the 13th of May, and police have stated that there was no sign of forced entry into the building. Jimenez had disappeared and his car was nowhere to be found. An investigation was launched, and it was found that Jimenez had used his cell phone in Chicago on the 12th of May, and again in southern Illinois. He used it again later in Tennessee and in Arkansas, Houston, and finally in Mexico. When a raid was carried out at Jimenez's brother's house, his black Maserati was discovered in the garage. Evidence was also found inside the car, which proved that Estrella had been moved after she was deceased. It's believed that his brother then drove him to Mexico before returning home, and police speculate he may be hiding out in Durango or Reynosa, Mexico. Number 2. 37-year-old Omid Tavili, also known as Nino, is the kingpin of a Persian organized crime family based in Canada. The group has also been linked to other crimes in the country. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police have stated that he arrived in Canada in 1994 after traveling from Iran. In November of 2000, he and his brother-in-law were arrested after 6.6 pounds of a controlled substance were found in their possession during an operation carried out between the Vancouver Police and the RCMP. However, Tavili was not found guilty. In 2003, it had become apparent to the RCMP that he'd become the head of operations for one of the main criminal organizations that was operating out of an Iranian community in the country. In 2005, Tavili was told that $300,000 had gone missing from his operations, and he suspected that a courier who he employed had stolen the money and fled to Vietnam. He kidnapped the man's brother-in-law and interrogated him for hours, but eventually let him go, only to be arrested himself soon after. On the 15th of November, 2007, Tavili escaped from a maximum security prison in British Columbia after he bribed a prison guard with the promise of $50,000. He was doing time after being found guilty of assault, kidnapping, causing bodily harm, uttering a threat, and proceeds of crime charges, and after it was found that he was the mastermind behind the criminal organization. He was spotted on CCTV cameras leaving the prison while wearing a janitor's uniform and being accompanied by a man who unlocked a series of doors for Tavili, who eventually made his way out through the prison's front door. He was given an 11-year sentence in absence. He's also wanted in the United States, however, where he's accused of running a $3 million telemarketing scam that was aimed at preying on elderly victims. In August of 2008, Tavili contacted the Royal Canadian Mounted Police and promised to turn himself in if it could be guaranteed that he would not be extradited to the United States. He told police that he was in Toronto at the time, but it is suspected that he fled to Iran, which has no extradition treaty with Canada, and he remains a missing person. Number 1. Vasilis Paleokostas is believed to have been the mastermind behind the kidnapping of Yorgos Mylonas, who is a Greek industrialist. They hold this belief since a ransom that was paid for Yorgos was traced back to him. While his brother was serving time for his role in 16 bank robberies, Vasilis tried to break him out of prison by driving a tank through the walls of the prison. He was also involved in the robbery of a jewelry store, but managed to escape after his accomplices blocked police into their own station. During another robbery, while being pursued by police, he started throwing fistfuls of money out the window of their getaway car, causing pedestrians to run after the money and hampering the police's pursuit, causing them to get away unscathed. As they fled, they stole another car but returned it to its owner with a wad of money inside to compensate him for the inconvenience. Vasilis became famous in his hometown after he gave most of the money from the robbery to poor families in the area. In 2000, he was convicted of another kidnapping, that of Alexander Haydoglu, in 1995. Haydoglu was the CEO of a company called Haydoglu Bros, which is a food company based in northern Greece. On that occasion, he was sentenced to 25 years behind bars. While he was serving time in 2006, 2 of his accomplices booked a trip on a sightseeing helicopter, which was to fly from the coast of Athens. During the flight, they hijacked the helicopter and forced the pilot to divert his path to the prison, where Vasilis was being held. Upon arrival of the helicopter, prison guards believed that they were being visited by prison inspectors, but instead, prisoners were loaded on board before being flown to a nearby cemetery, where they made their escape on motorcycles. 2 years later, in 2008, Vasilis would be captured again, but on the 22nd of February of that same year, another helicopter arrived at the prison and Vasilis, along with Alket Rezai, climbed up a rope ladder which was lowered by a female accomplice as it flew over the prison courtyard. An elderly couple would later find the helicopter abandoned near a highway in Athens with a leaking fuel tank from a bullet hole caused by one of the prison guards. The pilot had been tied up and gagged, and he told police that the helicopter had been chartered by an elderly couple who asked to be flown to Athens. The pilot told police that the couple had made use of the helicopter numerous times over the previous weeks, posing as business partners. He would go on to state that he was forced to take part in the daring escape, and that Vasilis made his getaway in a car after the helicopter landed and he was tied up and gagged. Vasilis still remains a wanted fugitive. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knots, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.